Hello, happy folks. I hope you guys are having just an absolutely amazing day today. For today's Friday, which I typically like to do top 10s of things like top 10 Godzilla films, typically films, and that sort of thing. I've just recently ranked my 11 Star Wars films, I've done my top 10 independent films, foreign language films, that sort of a thing. Also, recently took a deep dive 5-week break for 2 of my favorite artists and albums, and then 3 of my favorite comic book artists and miniseries. And now we're back to that too. And last week I ranked my top 10, all my Star Wars films, and this week I thought it'd be fun to rank my 11 Star Trek shows, because I do like Star Trek more than Star Wars. I'm a total Trek geek. We're ready. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started with this stuff. Alrighty, so as a reminder, I need to have seen this a few times, just as a heads up. Alright, so number 11 is Star Trek Lower Decks. It stars Tawny Newsome, Jack Quaid, Noel Wells, Eugene Cordero, Don Lewis, Jerry O'Connell, Fred Tedascore, and Gillian Figman. It's a fan service comedy show for adults. It's about a half an hour long. It's traditionally animated. It's on Paramount. I just don't think it's funny. It's a little it's a little overly fan servicey too at times too. Great if you're not a Trekkie, you might not find it funny at all, right? But I think it should be other stuff, right? And that sort of stuff too. All right, so I honestly don't find it to be overly funny for those reasons, and it's a little fan servicey at times too. Number 10 is Star Trek Enterprise. This stars Scott Bakula, John Billingsley, Jolene Blaylock, Dominic Keating, Anthony Montgomery, Linda Park, and Connor Trenier. It's a prequel to the Federation and that sort of a thing. It stars the first Enterprise and that sort of a thing. I feel it's a little fan servicey too at times, and sometimes it just feels a little too in the weeds. I also don't like the temporal Cold War changing stuff up to make it fresh, right, or that sort of thing. I love the Andorians here, though. So let's end on a positive note. Right. So number 9 is Star Trek: The Animated Series. It stars the main cast of the Star Trek series, and that sort of thing. It's weird, it's quirky, it's fun. It actually won the first Emmy Award for any Star Trek show, so you cannot deny its awesomeness. So that's number 9. Number 8 is Star Trek Voyager, starring Kate Mulgrew, Robert Beltran, Roxanne Dawson, Jennifer Lien, Robert Duncan McNeil, Ethan Phillips, Robert Picardo, Tim Russ, Garrett Wang, and Jerry Ryan. So the idea here is that they have been thrown into a far quadrant, and they have to take the slow way home, which is sad. But then, so the idea is great here, and even the pilot is good too. Right, but it just doesn't live up to its potential. Except for 7 and 9, there's not a lot of character development. Right, they overuse the bore, and that sort of a thing. I feel like it just didn't live up to its potential. It didn't follow along with its premise, like of being far away so you can go to space stations, get refitted, right, or fixed, right, and that sort of a thing. You should have played into it. But unfortunately, it just doesn't. All right. So number 7 is Star Trek Picard on Paramount Plus, starring a huge cast of Patrick Stewart, Alison Pill, Issa Briones, Harry Treadaway, Michelle Hurd, Santiago Cabrera, Evan Evagora, Jerry Ryan, Orla Brady, Brent Spiner, Ed Spielers for you folks. It's a great finale, and the 3rd season is saving grace. That's why it's sitting inside. The first 2 were horrible stuff. Just couldn't do some writing and so forth. But the final season, I think, put it back on the map. But it's not as great as the first 2 seasons. And unfortunately, again, kind of like the first 2 that hit, the great final season is a little fan servicey at times. They don't introduce any other characters unless they're the children of our beloved TNG characters, right? For an example, I just don't like that. It feels weird at times. And that sort of thing, so it can feel a little fan servicey at times. All right, so number 6 is Star Trek Discovery. It stars a huge cast too: Sonequa Martin Green, Doug Jones, Shazad Latif, Anthony Rapp, Mary Wiseman, Jason Isaacs, Wilson, Cruz, Anson, Mount, David, Ajala, Rachel and Sherry, Blue de Barrio, Tig Notaro, and Kalium Keith Rennie. It's a bit uneven at times, unfortunately, for plots. Sometimes it tries to take on too much. Almost all of its major plot lines are, oh my gosh, the Federation or the universe is going to explode. How can we stomp it? And such. So it can feel a little weird at times. And that sort of a thing. So I feel it's a bit, but I feel like it's fine. It's a bit underrated for the era, and it gave us the modern era, so we got to love it for those reasons. All right, so top 5 time. Number 5 is Prodigy. It stars Brett Gray, Elia Purnell, Jason Manizukis, Angus Emery, Riley Zarqui, D. Bradley Baker, Jimmy Simpson, John Noble, Kate Mulgrew, Robert Beltran, Robert Picardo, Jamil, and Will Wheaton. Sorry, not Wheel. Weird. The person's first name was Will. So it's my second favorite new era show. Love it much. It definitely has a long story construction done so well because it has individual episodes that build up to it rather than every episode serving a plot, right? So number 4 is Strange New Worlds. For you folks, and this is starring Anson Mount, Ethan Peck, Jess Bush, Tristina Chung, Celia Rose Gooding, and then Milicia Navia and Babs Alusukuman and Bruce. I'm sorry, I totally pronounced his name. I looked it up to see it, but I'm sorry, I totally pronounced his name. Bruce Horak, Rebecca Roman, and Martin Quinn for you folks. Good stuff and great use of the IP too. It's a prequel, but it doesn't feel like it's living in that fan service era. All right, now top 3 down. So number 3 is Star Trek, the original series, starring William Shatner, Leonard Nimoy, and DeForest Kelley, and all the rest too. Lots. It's got to be high up here for a lot of reasons. And now number 2 and 1. Number 2 is Star Trek: The Next Generation TNG, starring Patrick Stewart, Jonathan Frakes, LeVar Burton, Denise Crosby, Michael Dorn, Gates McFadden, Marina Sirtis, Brent Spiner, and Will Wheaton. I love it much. It put the new era on the map in a major way, and that sort of a thing. It's an absolute classic and has to be here pretty high too. So I really like. It depends on who I'm watching at the time, who my favorite character is, whether it's Worf or Dr. Crusher or Data, based on the episodes and what's happening, spot on and so forth. But it does great stuff. They really cast that well. Great stuff. Alrighty. So, and then Star Trek DS9 is my top betting one, obviously, because it's the last one that's been here. It stars Avery Brooks, Renee Auberjonois, Terry Farrell, Sarah Lofton, Colm Meaney, Armin Shimmerman, Alexander Siddig, Nina Vizard, Michael Dorn back again. He is awesome, and Nicole DeBurr. I love this epic so much. It does a long storytelling well. Again, individual episodes that have their own story. I can't brag about it too much. All right, so that's number 1. All right, so let's go over my top 11. I'll rank again. Number 11 is Star Trek: Lower Decks. Number 10 is Enterprise. Number 9 is Star Trek: The Animated Series. Number 8 is Voyager. Number 7 is Star Trek Picard. Number 6 is Discovery. Number 5 is Prodigy. Number 4 is Strange New Worlds. Number 3 is Star Trek: The Original Series. Number 2 is Star Trek: The Next Generation. And number 1 is Star Trek: Deep Space Nine for you folks. All right, so there you are. So what did you think about it? Now remember, I'm not a trained cinema critic. I didn't study cinema or make movies right now. So your opinions on these things are going to be just as valid as mine is, right? So have you watched those 11? Would you put them in this order? What would be yours? Just let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Love to engage you with it, right? That sort of a thing. All up and down the bottom. And there we are for you folks. Like I mentioned, I do a lot of top 10s, so check it out. Tomorrow I do something I call Serial Saturday, which is dedicated to the forgotten storytelling method of serials in movies like Buck Rogers or Dean or Flash Gordon or the Tarzan serials I've gone back and reviewed, or TVs too. I've gone back and watched the first 2 seasons of Doctor Who in the 60s too. The first Doctor starring William Hartnell too. So that's off something fun too. On Wednesday, I do something I call Video Game Wednesday. A couple of days ago, where I do it older video games. We just reviewed Baldur's Gate 1. The previous week was Pool of Radiance week. So I did the video game novelization and the module for Dungeons and Dragons. I've recently done a lot of older things too, like Star Control, from the early 90s or 1999's Heroes of Might and Magic 3, or even Crusader Kings 3 or Star Wars. So they're more recent, right? And that sort of thing. So we're going to knock out the rest of the Baldur's Gate series. Series for you folks. Alrighty. And there you are. Also on Monday, like I mentioned before, I do reviews of older RPGs like Back Me, or First Edition Dungeons and Dragons and stuff like that, or war games like BattleTech. So you can check those out too. I'm currently doing reviews of the B series. I've recently done things like that by Gary Gygax and Tom Moultrie and all sorts of things. I did B5, next week will be B6. And so forth by Douglas Niles, and then on Wednesday, that's it. And then the other 3 days a week, I do 3 reviews of older things in the 3 genres. This channel covers science fiction, fantasy, and horror for you folks. So check them out too, if you like those things. And if those 7 older videos sound like a lot of fun to you, then welcome to the channel. Please have a seat. I think you'll enjoy your time. Alright, so do all the YouTube stuff, like hit the subscribe button, the like button, the bell icon, be notified of the 7 videos a week. I also post a couple of Let's Plays too in addition to that. And then also, but I'm not sure if I'm going to keep up with that because the sound isn't working for me. And I'm not feeling it. I'm not sure that people are feeling it. From 2005 says the movies. It's a movie making sim. It starts in this out there. Alright, and so there. And then again, share, like, and watch. But mostly watch and share. Those are the key ways to go to the channel. Right? Alrighty. So there you are. As you can tell from all those old things, that's also the passion of this channel. It's also where the name comes from too, right? The worst thing about new books. That's a quote by a French philosopher named Jacques Joubert, who said that the worst thing about them was they kept us from reading the old ones, right? And it's not that the new ones are bad. They're not, right? But in our passion for the new novel, the new movie, the new video game, and those sorts of things, we sometimes have forgotten that they're standing on the shoulders of giants, right? So let's check out those giants, right? They're heavily influential in modern day. Alrighty, so there you are. There you are, and if you made it all the way to the end of this video, I just want to take a couple of seconds to thank you just so much for taking some time out of your day and just investing it and watching my videos, right? Because we all have so many things that are happening in our lives, and we're pulled in so many different directions too. So the fact that you spent this time with me, that's incredibly humbling, and I appreciate it so very, very much. So thanks again, and have an amazing day.